I've never really been too concerned with the whole games as art debate. Whether video games fit the parameters for this arbitrary word or not doesn't make them any more or less interesting in my opinion. However, I feel like I can talk about it, and I've been looking for more short topics to discuss, so let's see if I can say anything interesting. The biggest points of the debate seem to be just the definitions at this point. You know, stuff like, what are video games? What's the difference between video games and regular games? Are all video games games? Are all games art? What even is art? Most of these debates seem to just run down into semantics, but I'd like to focus on that last one, mostly because it's been around since the Renaissance.
This is not a new conversation. Even wrinkly old famous people used to talk about it. Frank Zappa, Oscar Wilde, Aristotle, Michelangelo.
I'm neither a ninja nor am I a turtle, so I think it's fair to say I'm probably also not an authority on art. At the end of the day, I'm just some internet guy. But I did take Intro to Art in college, so I'll just tell you what my professor told me. Art has no formal definition, but it does have characteristics. The two most important ones are that art is human created and not everything is art. In my mind, I internalize this to mean that art represents some kind of human feeling or idea. For example, here's a picture of a dog I took. I think the dog is happy and cute and fluffy and good. The fact that this dog exists is not art. But the fact that I highlighted it through the lens of a camera shows that I am communicating the feelings I have of the dog to whoever is viewing it. That's what art is all about. This is only a recent development though. Photography has only recently been admitted into the exclusive club that is art. In fact, the field has only been expanding since its conception. If I put a sculpture up on a pedestal, that's art. But what if someone just throws a toilet they found up there? Does that count? Sure, that's Marcel Duchamp's fountain. The man is commenting on the absurdity of the pedestal, determining what we see as important or artistic. You see, there was a lot of elitism associated with art back then, which may still be around today, but what we should take away from this is that people have always seen certain art forms as above others. Today we're mostly in a state of hybridity, but we used to have higher than low art, where the quality of your work was roughly determined by who was seeing it and what it was made of. Expensive materials made your art better. If you used less expensive ones, then you weren't an artist, you were just some craftsman. An audience of rich and high-class people made your art high art, which, by definition, was more interesting. If you made something for the masses, you made some low art, which held a stigma of being a lesser craft. This seems to be the major argument against games as art. Games are not art because they are not as good as my favorite art thing. But to say that implies that there's some arbitrary quality quota that each piece needs to fulfill before being considered art. How good does something have to be before it's considered art? Who decides how good something is? How does one go about measuring goodness? Obviously this was dropped because it seems pretty condescending to imply art and quality are both anything other than subjective. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and as an artist, it's your job to create and communicate something using the objective qualities of your medium. As a member of the audience, you interpret and experience these factual elements by reintegrating your subjective feelings. It's all about giving real form to personal feelings and through that communicating to another person. Just because you don't like something doesn't mean it's not art, and just because something is art doesn't mean it's good. At least that's my take on it. In the end, it's all semantics. There's nothing to gain from being considered art. Judging from what I've read up on, most people opposed to games being art seem to be either people who consider art better than games or games better than art. And I feel like we should try to avoid the greater than symbol when it comes to definitions, especially when the subject at hand varies so intensely among person to person. Speaking of subjectivity though, what do you think? Your opinion is as valid as mine. If you post something in the comments, odds are I'll see it and maybe we can get some conversation going. Or maybe you'd like to check something else out on my channel. You can do that by clicking here. Oh, and if you want more on games as art, I recommend this video here from a friend at Video Game Close Up. I'll catch you next time.